What's going on, guys? Josh Baldwin here from Mad Money Millennial. Once again, you'll want to pay a cordial visit to those like and subscribe buttons. And let's get into this video on the latest updates surrounding the fourth stimulus check. Now, if we turn back the clock and add up all of the federal aid we received in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, we've had a total of 3 primary stimulus checks. We had the $1,200 payment issued via the Coronavirus Aid Relief and Economic Security Act back in March of 2020, a $600 payment issued as an additional relief measure in December, and if you guys recall, that was after a 9-month-long battle in Congress that was widely delayed by the politics involved in the presidential race. So that was about a month after President Biden was sworn into office. Since then, we had one more payment of $1,400, which was signed into effect by President Biden under the American Rescue Plan in March of this year. Despite these efforts, polling data from TransUnion shows 4 in 10 Americans remain in financial distress, with the average income appearing even lower than before the pandemic. We have an unemployment rate of 6.1%, up almost double from what it was prior to the pandemic. So as we continue to struggle with joblessness and the lack of a strong labor market, the need for additional aid is imperative. In fact, more than 2.3 million people have signed a Change.org petition calling for monthly $2,000 payments. In a letter addressed to President Biden, 21 Democratic senators have pledged their support for recurring payments. Now, how likely is this to go through? Well, let's look at the facts. State lawmakers have already set a precedent for federal lawmakers to follow suit. Governor Newsom of California introduced a $267 billion budget bill, which would allow $600 payments to state residents, with around 2/3 of Californians being eligible to receive one, including an additional $500 for qualifying dependents of 2020 taxpayers. Furthermore, senators like Chuck Schumer and Elizabeth Warren have been pushing to raise monthly Social Security checks for people on SSI. So we definitely have the traction for federal aid turning away in Washington. Several prominent Democratic senators are on board for a 4th stimulus check. So what's the delay? Well, one reason is the Biden administration is currently investing in a $2 trillion infrastructure plan, which will work to restore schools, roads, airports, and build affordable housing. On top of that, it's becoming more and more evident that the economy will now begin to recover due to the rise in vaccination rates nationwide. In fact, in JP Morgan Chase CEO's annual letter to shareholders, he is quoted as stating, "With excess savings, new stimulus savings, huge deficit spending, more quantitative easing by the Federal Reserve, a new potential infrastructure bill, a successful vaccine, and euphoria toward the end of the pandemic, the U.S. economy will likely boom. This boom could easily run into 2023 because of all the spending that could extend well into 2023. Now, how true this may end up being, only time will tell. But when it comes to 4th stimulus checks, I would personally not consider it likely. If you recall, when posed the question of student loan cancellation, which was an earlier push by Democrats and a promise by President Biden when he first took office, what was the result? Well, he canceled around $3 billion of student loan debt. Sound like a lot? Well, that's around 0.1% of the total $1.7 trillion in outstanding student loan debt. So you can make up your own mind about that. Not to mention, most of that student loan cancellation was focused on students with disabilities and special circumstances. So not exactly the deal a majority of us students were looking for. The previous 3 stimulus checks were released under reasons of urgency. The first one being an initial response to the pandemic. The $600 check after a 9-month delay due to the presidential race. And lastly, a $1,400 payment in assistance for people in the midst of a stressful and confusing 2021 tax season. So while I'm not entirely ruling out a 4th stimulus check, the likeliness is definitely on the lower end in my honest opinion. Alright guys, those are the latest updates and news regarding the 4th stimulus check, among other federal aid programs. Once again, I'd ask you to hit that like and subscribe button. Stay safe, stay hustling, and I will talk to you guys again soon.